broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Innovation and Building Global Digital Solutions with Aviva. We are joined today by our guest speakers, Steve Granados and Adam Kobalecki. Steve is responsible for the development of digital experience for Aviva customers, and Adam is responsible for the development of Aviva's mobile apps and how these apps can be accessed across global locations. Now, before we begin the session, just some housekeeping. If you have any questions for Steve or Adam, please fire them over via the questions box and the speakers will answer them at the end of their talks. We are recording the session and this will be made available by email the following day. So now I'm going to hand over to Steve to begin the first talk.
Thanks, Adele. Good afternoon, everyone. I'll just share my screen. Hopefully this is coming through okay. Excellent. Good afternoon. So my name's Steve Granados. I'm a digital platform manager at Aviva and have been for 20 years. Well, I've been at Aviva for 20 years. I've been working in digital for about 7 or 8 years. So that's quite a dull title, but essentially I look after various development teams that are working on our digital experience for our customers, developing web applications essentially. So today I'm going to talk through this digital transformation at Aviva, and I thought would focus more on the mindset and the culture rather than the technology. Technology is equally important, and there will be a bit on technology, but there's more around how we changed our mindset and how we changed our culture. Because I think if you don't do that, then you can have the best technology in the world. It's going to be hard to succeed. So start with a brief history lesson to Aviva. Aviva's been around for a long time, hundreds of years, in different names and forms. Probably Norwich Union is the one that everyone's most familiar with. So we had a famous customer back in 1896. Winston Churchill took a policy out with us. I'm sure the way he took that policy out with us back then is very different to how our customers interact with us now. And a bit of gruesome history. So one of our presidents was actually murdered by his tenant, who also killed his son. And Norwich Union kindly gave their staff an afternoon off to watch him hang outside Norwich Castle. So I don't think that's a practice that's caught on. I've heard of sort of duvet days, but we don't have watch the murderer hang days anymore at Aviva. But there's a bit of a gruesome past. And technology, we've always been trying to sort of embrace technology. This is at the time in 1964 the most powerful computer being installed at Aviva. So the fact they need a truck and a crane shows all the way. 1964 wasn't that long ago in the context of things, so it just demonstrates how quickly things have changed. So yeah, there's also, I think this is a shot of our developers who were programming on that computer. So I don't think our developers would want to swap, although the amount of space these guys have in terms of desk space, I think they might want to swap these days. We'd have 10 people there with our lovely hot desking, but things have obviously moved a long way on from then. So brief history of Aviva. So Aviva traditionally has been set up down sort of 2 distinct product lines: sort of general insurance, your car, motor, home, and your life products with pension and investments and bonds. And that the company operated very much as different companies within the UK. So we had our own life business units, and we had our own IT team for life, and on GI you had the equivalent, and we worked very much in silos, didn't really talk to each other. And from a customer experience perspective, that was quite frustrating, because you'd want to just interact with Aviva and you see it as one company. You don't see it as multiple companies underneath. And if you wanted a piece of information for multiple policies, you'd expect to be able to get that information. But I know sort of firsthand that wasn't possible. When I joined Aviva, I worked in the life admin team looking after pensions. So financial advisors would call up, or customers would call up, and they'd want a pension valuation, and I'd be able to give them that. But if they wanted a bond valuation, or they wanted to know some information on some other investments, I didn't have the systems at hand to give them that. I'd have to hand it over to another colleague, which is frustrating for me, frustrating for the customer, and it wasn't a great experience. Simple things like a change of address. You think if a customer wanted to change their address across their policy holdings that they've got with Aviva, it would be one call in, and that would happen, and the address would be updated. That just wasn't possible. There was no system integration. Technically, it was very hard to do, and again, it would involve lots of handoffs to other teams. So it was a really crap customer experience, and we sort of knew that, but it was just because the way the business was set up. it was like, well, it's life business, it's a GI business, that's just the way it is. We weren't really thinking about the customer and what was best for the customer. So I'm going to call it a light bulb moment. So what I mean by light bulb moment, this is something that sort of changed the course of history for the company. It sounds quite dramatic, but I guess an example of that would be maybe with Apple when they brought Steve Jobs back into the company. I think it was in 1997. Before that, they were struggling, but I think he came back in and sort of changed the direction of that company. I think you can have negative light bulb moments. So probably blockbusters when in 2000 they had the opportunity to buy Netflix for $50 million, and they turned down that opportunity, and the rest is history. So I think that there's always moments when there's opportunities to seize and to take them, and it's sort of about failing fast and learning and taking those opportunities when they present themselves. So I'm going to talk a bit about the sort of light bulb moment we had at Aviva, which is MyAviva, and I'll show you MyAviva in a bit and talk through that in a bit more detail. But I think MyAviva was one of our light bulb moments that sort of changed where we're going and where the direction of the company's going in. So I mentioned that we were working in silos. We were very separate within the UK, but also within the globe. Aviva is a global company. We have we're set up in Italy, France, in Asia. There was no collaboration in the UK, let alone on a global scale. But in the UK, we had to we were keen to move off one of our life systems. It was written on legacy technology. It was a web portal that our customers used to log on and to look at their policy holdings for their life products. But it was outdated, and we wanted to rewrite it, and the target technology was .NET MVC. On the life side, we had no experience with .NET MVC, but on the general insurance side, our web teams were developing with .NET, so they had that experience, but they weren't so experienced with the sort of product holdings and having that view across all the GI products. So we had this rewrite. A couple of the developers and a couple of the team went and spoke to some of the developers in the GI team. So the life guys went to speak to the GI guys, which at the time was a bit unheard of. I know it sounds crazy and obvious now, but they went and spoke to each other and realised that they weren't three-headed monsters that wanted to kill each other. They were actually wanted to achieve the same thing, which was a good customer outcome, and they started to collaborate and thought, well, we're rewriting this from a life perspective. Why don't we try and get some general insurance policies on here and see if we can get a policy view across our product range? So they tried that, and it's sort of in the fail fast agile fashion. So it was the first sort of delivery we set up to be true agile, where we were lucky enough to get a co-located team. We had the business working with us. We brought in the right skilled people, so agile experts from through from the Scrum Master and developers and business analysts. We tried to sort of bring in the best people we could who really would embrace the agile mentality and the collaboration, and we tried to call some general insurance policies and see if we could display them, and we could, and we took that to the exec and the senior management and said we're rewriting this portal. We think from our customers' perspective, they don't want to just see their life policies, they want to see everything, and showed them it, and they fell in love with it and thought, well, yeah, this is a no-brainer. We need to do this, and the project really got some traction then. I think within 9 months we'd got our first product launch out into production. We'd been speaking to the customers before then, but we did a sort of beta version. We didn't do a big marketing campaign around it. It was more of a sort of soft launch, if you like. Let's test and learn. Let's get the customers' feedback, and MyAviva was born. So I'll just talk you through MyAviva just so you get a bit of context. So it is essentially our direct customer portal. So if you want to buy any products with Aviva and you want to service those products, you come through MyAviva. So it sounds fairly straightforward, but 5 or 6 years ago, we didn't have this. Like I said, we had a separate one for general insurance and a separate one for life, separate logins. So it was a very different experience depending on what products you had. So you can see here, this is a view of the customer's holdings that he can see for the first time. He can see which policies he's got and also which ones he could buy. A lot of our customers didn't realise that we did travel insurance, for example. So when we launched MyAviva, we saw an uplift of 300% in travel insurance. So for the first time, they had an easy place to go, and we could start offering them discounts and start looking at customer loyalty, which was something that we didn't really look at, and I think we're starting to see customer loyalty and rewarding that as a real big driver, whereas rather than reward the new customers, let's look at the existing customers and how we can reward them. So yeah, MyAviva has taken on. We're still developing it and still enhancing it, but that's sort of MyAviva in a nutshell. So what this did, the light bulb moment, I guess, was that we recognised that building something for the customer and having the customer at the forefront of everything we do is the right thing to do, and having separate IT teams built, looking at life, looking at GI, looking at healthcare, whatever it may be, just didn't make any sense. So off the back of MyAviva launching, the IT teams merged and we created digital, and we started to think about collaboration. And collaboration within the organization should be fairly straightforward. You think you all work for the same company, but it just wasn't really happening up to this point. MyAviva was the catalyst that started that. So we started to collaborate within the UK. We started to build something once rather than 2 or 3 times. But that also then became global. So MyAviva has been rolled out in France, Italy, Singapore. I'm sure I probably missed some countries, but we're looking at products that can be launched globally rather than an individual project that comes up, spins something up and then moves on and forgets about it. We're trying to look at this as a product, and I suppose working as a retailer would, where you're looking at the demand and how you need to service your customers and what products you can give on a global scale. So it did change. I think it's changed Aviva, and for the better, because digital has been created, and I think digital's been in existence for 3 or 4 years now. But the focus on digital is around innovation, collaboration, trying to talk to our customers and understand how they want to work with us and what are their needs going to be in the future. Because I think we know that we can't stop. We have to keep on enhancing our products and keep on understanding how the customers' needs change. So MyAviva was the first agile delivery. Up to then it was all waterfall. I think it would take over 18 months from product idea to production. So by the time you've launched it, things have moved on. You know how quickly things change in 18 months. So it was our first agile delivery, and as well as changing the business in terms of it created a digital company within Aviva. We also changed the development life cycle and moved away from that waterfall delivery to agile delivery and frequent production drops and continuous integration, and trying to develop and learn as quickly as possible rather than have that waterfall mentality where it takes at least 18 months to launch anything. And yeah, on a global scale as well. So we've got digital garages now. We've got 3 in the UK, I think, and in Singapore. So that's really trying to embrace that culture of, I suppose, startup culture, and how we can get teams collaborating, working together, and having that space to talk to each other and to share ideas, and to make sure that it feels like it's one team with the same outcomes rather than separate teams all working to different goals. So some of the innovation, so I talked about sort of mindset and culture. I think that is the most important thing. You've got to have exec buy-in. So we were able to take that prototype to the exec and show them, and that really brought it to life. And off the back of that, we were able to start to change the culture within Aviva to show that this is how a group of people getting together and just having some ideas can create something that can change the company. So the culture was really important. Obviously, you've got to be able to embrace technology with that and have a view of what's coming up. So we've just released our first skill on Alexa. And we're looking at getting all of our applications into the cloud, and the DevOps and this sort of continuous integration, I think is really key. It has to go hand in hand with that culture and mindset. The picture of a driverless car there. So I think we just don't know where things are going. I think 20 years ago, if you were to say that driverless cars would be on the rise, and people would have thought, no way. So that's not going to happen. Same with Amazon. Investing in drones to deliver packages a few years ago, that would have been laughed off, but who knows where we're going to go with it. So you've got to have a mind to the future and understand what your customers want to do and how they want to do with it, because it will change. They're expecting everything to be connected, and the way they interact with us is changing all the time. So we're trying to understand that and adapt and be leading the way really with our digital agenda, and move away from being a typical insurance company to more of a sort of a digital technical company that's at the cutting edge of technology. So I think I mentioned at the start that it was quite fragmented, and the business didn't really talk to IT, and IT didn't really talk to the business, and it felt very broken. I think this is just a sort of a little note from our ND about the job that we've done within digital, and I think we do feel like we work as one. We're very we collaborate together. It does feel like one team rather than the business giving IT a bashing for being so expensive, and IT giving the business a bashing because they don't know what they want. It's very much a one team effort now, and I think within digital we've demonstrated that you can deliver change quickly, you can deliver it with quality, and you can deliver customer outcomes. And I think that's been recognised within the wider sort of senior stakeholders at Aviva. So I guess the three main things I'd take from that is put the customer first, and that sounds so simple, but we weren't doing that before. And then it was only for like 5-6 years ago we were working in silos. We weren't thinking about what would be best for the customer. It was individual departments thinking about what they were going to do, and it's when you turn it on its head and think about the customer, it really changes your way of thinking. I think we had to get the exec and the senior buy-in. We had to get the organisation to buy into this, and the best way of doing that is demonstrating that there was a better way. We could actually show them that this is how quickly we can develop, and we can really make a difference. So getting that sort of senior buy-in was key. And people, without people with the right mindset and the willingness to sort of adapt and to change and to embrace new ways of working in technology, it's going to be really hard, and that did involve making some tough decisions around our people. If they weren't adapting, then we did have to make some hard calls for sort of people moving on. But I think you've got to have the right people, and we sort of invest heavily in our apprenticeship scheme to bring in young blood and bring in keep fresh talent coming in. And some of these kids are amazing what they can do at 16, 17 years old. They're building a website. It's quite scary, really. I think it seems to be something that's with the younger generation. They just grow up with this. I know I can give my 4-year-old a tablet for the first time, and he just knows how to use it, which is quite terrifying. But I think that's the sort of culture we want, is to mix that youth and experience and get people in who will really embrace this new way of working, and not be afraid to fail and fail fast, and to learn from it, and to move on and to adapt. So I think it's been, we haven't completed it. We're a long way off from the finished article. But when I look back to when I started, and I had those really annoyed financial advisors calling me up asking for information that I can give them, to where we are now, where it's a million miles away, but we've still got a long way to go on that journey. We still need the investment to continue. We still need to bring in the right people. We still need to have that culture and that mindset from top to bottom, that delivering in an agile way and looking for the future and innovating is the way forward, and that digital is the strategy. There is no other strategy. We still need to be pushing that hard, but it feels like we're on the right path, and that's the strategy that we're all working towards. So yes, that's a sort of very quick summary of our transformation journey. So I'll sort of hand back now and see if anyone's got any questions.
Great, yes, thanks so much, Steve, for the talk. If anyone does have any questions, we'll just take a few moments now if you want to fire them over the questions box, and Steve will answer those. So just take a few moments.
Okay, I've got one question come through, which was what was the biggest learning from the last few years? Look, that's quite a hard one, but I think it's probably be having something that you can demonstrate and show to people. So I think with my Aviva, we were able to put a prototype, and we were able to build and learn without the pressures of projects and timelines. We were able to get the team together and try things. And once we had something like a prototype that we thought we needed to to show up to the execs, etc., we could do that, and that was so powerful. I think when you talk through PowerPoint slides and presentations, it doesn't really bring it to life, but if you've got a product that you can bring to life, that really helped us. And I think probably the other biggest thing is, I talked about it just now, but is the people side of it. You've got to get the right people in the organization that want to change, that can change, that can adapt, and you can invest millions and millions of pounds in cloud services and DevOps if the people there are still wanting to work in a waterfall mentality and still it's just not going to work. So I think it's being able to demonstrate that results and showing something that's tangible to people so they can see it, but also the people side of things is it makes sure that you've got the right people that can lead by example and build that culture up. I think there's any other questions come through.
Yeah, if you just have a look at the questions box, Steve, we've got quite a few more coming through at the moment.
Oh, have we? Let's have a look. When talking about being able to fail fast, how are you able to produce new products and services quickly in such a large company? That is a good question. So we started a innovation team, which was there to deliver more of the smaller projects, I guess. So rather than the big things, that because we're quite heavily regulated, so it is hard for us to deliver features really quickly, because we have got to take into regulation. We wouldn't want to develop something and put it out to production and then find that we're actually at a breach of the regulation rules, because obviously that would kill us as a reputation and as a company. So we started an innovation team, which was there to do exactly that, to fail fast and to learn quickly and to launch products quickly. So that's worked, and we've launched some products through that so we've recognised that there are some things that we need to do quicker, that we can do quicker, and other things that are going to take a lot longer to do. With the bigger stuff, it will take longer to do, but we've tried to get the company and the business and the stakeholders to think about, let's not wait until we've got everything ready that the business want. Let's launch it with 40% there and get the feedback and do the continuous deployments so that we can launch something faster, rather than wait for the full sort of MVP. Let's try and test and learn and build it, and that's still a work in progress. The business sometimes will want everything before we can launch, but it's that balancing act between trying to launch as soon as you can with something, recognizing that there's going to be a continuous development on it. It's not going to be the finished article, and then trying to innovate on the smaller stuff where we can. Let's have a look. Other questions. How did you deal with traditional back office systems, integration challenges? I wish I had the answer to that, because yeah, it's a nightmare. I talked about how Aviva was lots of different companies, so we've got 300 odd years of legacy. So we've got all these different legacy systems, and it makes continuous development and rapid deployment really difficult. So one of the techniques is service virtualization we've used. So often those backends aren't changing. We just need to get hold of the data, and we just need to expose that data. So we've used service virtualization to mock and stub a lot of that out, and we're looking at sort of data caching and how we can remove the dependencies on all the backends. Simplification. So we've tried to simplify the estate. That's still going on today. We're trying to move away from 50 back-end systems to 10. It's definitely a work in process. So I wouldn't say we've got around those integration challenges. I think we've made some progress by using stubs and virtualization, but there's still a lot of work, progress to go. We need to simplify our estate. We've got hundreds of systems, so it's simplifying that estate and getting the buy-in that doing that is a good thing, because if you've got a working system, it's often, well, it doesn't matter, it works, why would we want to change it? But actually it's when you put them all together and you've got all that legacy that's hard to change, it is really difficult. So it's trying to get the traction from an IT perspective with our stakeholders and our sort of senior management, that in the long run it's going to be much better if we simplify our estate. So we're still working that through. So yeah, I don't think we've cracked that one just yet. What do you enjoy the most about working at Aviva? I would say it's the people. It sounds really corny, but it's a great organisation to work for. The people, the people make it, and I've been here 20 years, so it must be doing something right. And I started as like a pension administrator, working, taking calls, and I've managed to progress through to sort of a development manager working in digital. So there are opportunities there. It doesn't matter your class, colour, sex, it doesn't matter. If you show the right attitude and you've got the right behaviours, then you can do really well in this company. And it's very family friendly. It's if you need to drop the kids off at school or pick them up, it is recognised that that's really important. And I think it's little things like that, because it is hard work here, and we do have to put the hours in. But you know that if you need to do something for the family, or you've got to be somewhere, you're not going to get beaten up about it. So it's a good balance between work and life, and I think the opportunities that it gives people, it doesn't say if you've got the right attitude, then you can do really well here. So I think that's probably the best thing about it. How did you overcome the IT business culture to form a single unified team? That was really, I suppose, being able to demonstrate my Aviva, and that from a customer's point of view, it didn't make any sense to have separate teams. So if you turn it on its head and think about what does the customer want, it just makes no sense to separate these things. It's they don't care, they don't see that. So I think once we flipped it on its head and started to look from a customer's perspective, it almost takes the debate away, because why would you develop a separate portal for your general insurance customers and one for your life customers? It's like you want the same experience for both. And from a resource, from a money perspective, from a customer's perspective, it made sense to bring that together. But I've made that sound very simple. It wasn't, because obviously people are precious of their organisations, and it's been hundreds of years of working that way. So that wasn't a quick thing. It didn't happen overnight. But I think it's been able to demonstrate that if you want to change something within your organisation, you're changing it for the customer's benefit, not because it will benefit your team or your area. It makes it a lot easier to do. Have we got time to keep going with questions?
Yeah, I think possibly one more, Steve, and then we'll hand over to Adam.
Did you use consultants to implement the change, or was it all internal initiative? We use consultants, and we still do. So we with my Aviva, we did bring in some really good contractors, and we tried to get the best team possible to give us that best chance, because we knew it was the potential light bulb moment if we got it wrong and we went out and then to the execs and it just didn't work, or it looked terrible. It was going to be like, what are you guys talking about? Go away. It was our chance. It was our one chance to really show what we could do. So we brought contractors in. We still use contractors, and we still use global sourcing partners. So the bulk of our resources, I would say it's probably about 60% are global sourcing partners and 40% PERMI. We're trying to split that the other way around. So we want to get to more 60-70% PERMI, 30% GSP, but we're still working that through. But the recruitment over the last few years, I've never seen anything like it in terms of PERMI recruitment and bringing in apprentices, and trying to really put the emphasis on PERMIs and training and giving the guys what they need. So we'll always work with global sourcing partners and contractors, I think, but we've tried to balance it more out so that we've got core PERMI skills there that will stay with us and retain that knowledge. Excellent. Well, I hope that all made sense. Thank you for all the questions, and obviously there'll be a way to get back to email us and get if there's any further clarifications you need, then get back to us. But I'll hand back to Adele now.
Great, thanks so much, Steve. I'll now pass over to Adam.
Thanks, Adele. Can you just confirm you can see my screen?
Yes, all good.
Okay, great. Okay, well, thank you for that. Good afternoon, everyone. So as previously been said, my name is Adam Kobleski. I'm responsible for, similar to Steve, platform manager role within Aviva Digital IT. I think Steve's kind of alluded to what that is, but in essence, we just look after everything that can affect said platforms, and my particular bag is our mobile app estate. So I'm just going to spend a few minutes kind of talking through who we are, our kind of what I call our flagship apps, a bit about our journey from where we came from, and where we see ourselves now. So we are about 40 colleagues spread across 4 Scrum teams. So we're kind of in a full kind of Nexus kind of scaled Scrum model. We work across London and Norwich. We have kind of full cross-functional teams. We're quite lucky in mobile where we don't have a lot of interdependent platform functionality with the usual kind of skill sets. So we have your devs, your testers, your BAs, your Scrum Masters, and we also have kind of UX, UI embedded into our teams as well. So we kind of look across, we look after all the apps across the Aviva group. So we are a kind of global kind of function. So yeah, I'll leave plenty of time at the end for you to hopefully answer me some questions about what you see. So the first kind of slide just tries to kind of demonstrate the journey that we've been on and our real kind of transformation and the key enablers in that. So I think it's fair to say a couple of years ago, the kind of mobile estate wasn't in a particularly healthy state, and that's both from a customer experience, from a kind of quality in terms of the code base. So we've put a huge amount of effort over the 2 years to really kind of change that around. So the apps were very much UK focused. We didn't really have any kind of ability to put different apps into different markets. Very isolated, built in native languages that weren't cross-functional. No shared code, so no ability to share logins and other kind of things that you would like to share across web apps that are the same. And yeah, our quality in terms of focus on technical excellence wasn't meeting the mark. So a crash-free user rate that we're constantly having issues. For those that kind of know some of the other things that you care about, our code coverage was really low. Huge amount of duplicated code, huge amount of technical debt, and really no kind of focus on automation, sort of manual effort that went into ensuring that releases and things were suitable. So what changed? So some of the key things that you can see are really what turned the needle for us. So we now use Xamarin as a technology. So it's a cross-functional platform that enables you to build once for both iOS and Android, which are the technologies that we look to put our apps into the stores for our customers for. We had a similar kind of watershed moment that Steve kind of described around. We just knew that by trying to fix what was there, it would take too long to get right. So we accepted that what was built over the previous few years wasn't acceptable, and we started again with a brand new code base for our flagship app, which I'll get to quickly demonstrate later. We really started to change the way that across digital, actually, around how design and customer experience is at the center of everything we do. So I think before it was very isolated in terms of focusing on a feature, the latest thing, and overloading things, but actually simplicity, design-centric thinking has really changed the look and feel and actually experience that you get in terms of an app experience. Migration to a kind of platform. So we now have a huge amount of shareable code that because we have a platform build where most of our code goes. And that means if, as and when we spin up new apps, a lot of that is much quicker to market because we don't have to write the same thing again and again for new apps. And that allows, like I say, reusability, ease of test, and we can now scale across the globe. And for those familiar, BDD, so BDD has been a huge game changer for us in terms of how Scrum teams work, in terms of the language they use and the ability to really kind of bring down the time it takes to test the work that kind of goes on. And some of the other things that we're kind of focusing on now in 2018. So we want to get to the kind of Google, Facebook, the benchmark where they're releasing hundreds potentially of times a day, and whilst in our industry it might not get to that, moving from a monthly release model down to a fortnightly release model down to a daily release model is really what we're striving for this year and next. I've talked about the platform, so the kind of gold standard that I refer to, so quality isn't negotiable for us. So in any kind of conversation with our business colleagues, our standards can't be cut. So all of the things that software engineers will adhere to, we don't negotiate on. That comes as part of the package, and within that, our kind of quality processes are fully built into our ways of working. So developers and testers will have things that they have to do as part of new features in sprints, so that we always maintain that kind of focus on ensuring our standards are met. Continuous integration, so we're kind of on cutting edge tools now, so things like VSTS, we're really kind of focused on being able to just spit things out in a really quick and integrated way, which is a huge driver for change and quality change on a regular basis. Okay, so a bit about why apps are really important. So at the moment in the UK, 80% of all minutes that are spent on a mobile device are spent in apps, and that sounds silly, but a lot of functionality in apps are actually kind of built in mobile web technology, so responsive web. But if you're in an app experience, you provide that real direct access point from the home screen of a mobile device, and a native app experience is much slicker and faster than a comparable web experience, which you will tend to find a lot of app experiences built around. With kind of functionality like biometrics as well, that app experience really enhances the level of trust and security, and that really allows our customers to access their information faster without kind of fiddly password systems on websites. So a much easier experience for our customers. Apps that create kind of simple and repeatable tasks tend to command the most attention, and inevitably are used habitually, and that's really what we're striving for. So we in essence aim to deliver a frictionless journey for all of our customers for their infrequent tasks. So that could be renewing their home policy, could be updating their car insurance details, and really try and provide an engaging experience so they come back again and again. So My Aviva is kind of our flagship app in terms of its coverage of what we look to do development work on, and it's our most used. So we have about 300,000 lifetime downloads, and about an 82,000 monthly active user base, which is a key metric for us. And that last number, so monthly active users, so people who come back to the app every month, that number's kind of doubled in the last 12 months and continues to grow organically without kind of real heavy marketing behind it. So it's testament to the kind of work that's going on. Interesting, when you compare that to the web experience that Steve talked about, the app use actually counts for 1/3 of all My Aviva usage, and we receive on average of 4 logins per user each month. And if you compare that to the web, you can start to understand the opportunity. You can really engage with customers who are really bought into that simple habitual experience. And that's in essence what we are trying to create. So we need a quick and simple interface to perform key kind of policy tasks on the move. We try and couple utility and effortless mobile design as part of that. And we should really enable our customers to take control of the products they hold with us at the tap of a button. In the market, we've seen an increasing amount of big brands are also starting to build a suite of connected apps. So think Facebook, think Messenger, really an integrated ecosphere that caters to customers' needs from awareness through to purchase and service. Okay, so Aviva Drive, so a fantastic opportunity actually to come onto the to the call and talk about Aviva Drive. For those that watch TV, or for those that use Aviva Drive, you'll know that we've just launched our latest version of Aviva Drive. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what's going on in that space. So Aviva Drive, it's one of the top-rated apps in the financial sector. But it does have some of its some problems which we've been trying to address. So Aviva Drive in a nutshell is it rates your driving experience, gives you discount based on how you drive. But the problems we were finding with it is that once people were coming into the app and getting quotations to use a renewal or whenever it was, once they'd got that, there was no real hook for them to then continue to use that app. As well as that, in our industry, fraud is a huge problem, and agreeing fault is complex. And that was one of the really kind of key, not just business problems, but also customer problems that the innovation kind of agenda that we're focused on this, we're really trying to solve. So how do you really turn the needle on some of those big kind of numbers that really affect our customers? So the vision for Aviva Drive, when we started on this journey a few months ago, was to try and provide an independent witness on every customer's dashboard. So really turn the Aviva Drive experience, rather than just a discount tool that you use every so often. How can we really tap into that connected car experience, so that people engage with us? We provide a value service to our customers. And in essence, the kind of big bang release that's just come in after a few months of beta testing that's gone really well is a dash cam. So customers can in essence use the Aviva Drive app now, as well as for their discounted kind of car insurance, to really kind of have peace of mind at the wheel. So you can launch the Aviva Drive app. It will still record your journeys and do all the rating that you used to, but you can now have a dash cam, and the dash cam kind of is very different to the other things that are out there in the market, because I know that there are things that you can go and buy, but the functionality that it provides in a real slick UX, it doesn't take up huge amounts of space in your phone. It's intuitive enough to automatically detect collision and save storage. You can interact with Aviva straight away from if you have an accident as a customer. You can also use it as a non-Aviva customer, I should add, but the experience that we've gone in to build into the app, using some of the sort of game-changing things that I talked around design-centric apps, have really changed the vision of Aviva Drive and how that can benefit both Aviva, our digital agenda, but also fundamentally our customers. And we're already really starting to see kind of the benefits for our customers. So this isn't anything that we're charging for. This is pure customer benefit. And we've had our first kind of settlement as of last week. So a kind of road sign that are often put out had blown into the road. Customers using our dash cam, and in a normal event, he'd have to try and explain, probably using paper and a huge amount of emails going backwards and forwards, that this sign blew out and it wasn't his fault. But 99% of the time, he'd probably have to pay for that fault, because he can't prove that obviously it wasn't him that just drove into it. But because of our dash cam, we've seen the footage, this sign does just blow out of nowhere and damages his car. So he's now settled. That's a non-fault claim. He protects his interests. He gets what he needs, and he's rightly enabled to get the payment that he deserved. So we're really starting to see a kind of focus of highly engaged customers that are coming back to that app experience, and we're finding in the last kind of three months of beta testing, the kind of usage on a day-to-day basis is really hard for people to come back to apps. So whilst majority of people come back to Spotify and Facebook and YouTube, we're finding that our app is actually being used up to 4 times a day, which is hugely encouraging for us to start building relations with customers and really improving their day-to-day lives. So that's kind of a whistle-stop tour of who we are, the kind of journey we've been on, and our kind of 2 flagship apps that we kind of put a lot of our focus onto. We do have a suite of other apps that are out in the app stores, but those are our kind of two key things. So my kind of closing thought is keep an eye out for the adverts. I think there'll be one in the England-Colombia halftime slot tonight. So hopefully you'll be watching that, enjoying the weather somewhere, and also get to see a little bit about Aviva Drive as well. And I'll pass back to Adele for any questions.
Great, thanks so much, Adam. So we have had a couple of questions come through, so if you could have a look at those, and if anyone else has any more questions, please do fire them over via the questions box.
Okay, yeah, I'm just trying to Yeah, okay, great. So the first question I had was, do you believe daily releases is a good thing in terms of customer journeys? Yeah, I think so, yeah. My personal view is that the more that you can release value to customers, then the better it is. So I don't think there's anything more frustrating than not being able to log in or having a bug that really irritates you. And what we're seeing now, being able to engage with customers directly, the quicker we can fix those things for them, then absolutely the better. I remember I've been with Aviva now for about 10 years, and I remember the days when we had to do releases every 3 months. And if you think back to what that really means, and you've got an issue that you're willing to accept that customer, it can put up with for a huge amount of time, I actually think that's quite unacceptable. So the more we can move to continuous small increments of change for the benefit of the customer, I think that's absolutely the right thing to be doing. This next question was, have you investigated progressive web apps? We have had a look at that. Our kind of strategy is all about trying to build native web experiences, just because of some of the benefits that I've tried to articulate. So it's frictionless. You get better kind of in-app kind of times that people spend with it. But progressive web apps is definitely something that's emerging and is on the kind of watch radar, and will probably be here to stay, and we'll look at some point in the future. Next question was just around kind of key learnings. So the kind of key things that if I rewind back to the sort of journey, so the 3 things that we really look to hone in on is quality of code, non-negotiable. So if you're ever asked for shortcuts around, can we do this at the expense of your estate, that's non-negotiable for us as a platform. Reusability is absolutely king. So there's no point delivering something for someone if you can't reuse that for another app or another customer. And I think the third one is all around that kind of culture that Steve alluded to. So we are 100% agile, 100% kind of Scrum, and that's at the forefront of everything we do. The team always come first. There's not that kind of pressure that sometimes I think that you get. So agile as a kind of a way of living, if you like, is really fundamental. I think that was the 3 questions, unless I'm missing anything, Adele.
Yeah, no, that's great. Adam, thank you so much for that talk. That was brilliant. And a big thank you to Steve as well for the session earlier. So we're going to be sending out a follow-up email, which will contain a copy of the recording, and you'll have an opportunity to ask any further questions and give feedback on today's session. So thank you so much for everyone again for joining, and hopefully we'll have another session soon. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks all.